AITA for calling my wife entitled and humiliating her in front of my mom. My wife, my mom, and I have a huge point of contention when it comes to visits. We live about a 7-hour plane ride away from my mom, and there hasn't been a single visit in 5 years. My wife and my mom never had a great relationship. It wasn't too terrible, but just very different people, and they get on each other's nerves. So my wife doesn't want her to stay in the house. It makes me sad, but my wife feels the home needs to be a sanctuary, and no one who upsets her should be allowed to stay in her sanctuary. And I chose to support that. Her ideal visit would be my mom staying at a hotel and having designated visiting times. My mom says we can make our rules, but we can't seriously expect her to put her time and effort into traveling to stay at a hotel. I also understand that train of thought. My wife, however, thinks my mom owes it to our kids to make the effort. My mom says my wife is selfish for expecting her to sacrifice her time, effort, and peace of mind just to be treated like a burden. I have told my wife to leave it alone. I called my mom recently to talk, and my wife came over and began making digs about how the kids don't recognize my mom and were asking if I actually have parents. My mom said my wife needed to leave the conversation or she was going to hang up. My wife said it is so sad that my mom won't just come and see her grandkids because she feels entitled to stay in our house. I just snapped and told my wife that she needs to stop acting entitled to my mom's time, energy, the money it would take to visit, and she is the entitled one. My mom began laughing and my wife looked devastated. I quickly hung up and tried to talk it out with my wife. But she was furious and said I broke a cardinal rule of marriage by calling her out in front of my mom. I do get that, but I've given her my opinion in private so many times. I called my mom recently to talk, and my wife came over and began making digs. NTA. Your wife started it by inserting herself in your conversation to make digs. Couples counseling? NTA. I wouldn't come visit either. 7-hour plane ride to be told, these are the times you can come while you're here, and then expect her to go back to her hotel and wait until you're ready to let her come back. Your wife is an instigator and a bully. NTA for speaking the truth to your wife. But Ash for not visiting each other in 5 years. You do realize that you can travel too, right? Ash. Everybody sucks here, but your mother maybe least. I wouldn't get on a 7 hours plane ride, which is more like 10 hours of travel, all in, just to visit someone who was this hostile to me. And are you paying for the hotel for the week or however long she would be coming? I assume this wouldn't be a weekend, short trip with so much travel involved. Your wife doesn't want her in the house and you agreed to that. So you've both got no leg to stand on complaining about how often she comes to see your kids. You haven't seen your mother in 5 years because these two women in your life get on each other's nerves. That's not a good enough reason to cause all this grief, but seems like you don't want to stand up to either of them about the conflict. Info: why can't you take the kids to visit your mom? Might do everyone some good to give your wife some sanctuary, solitude. Info 2: why can't your mother stay in a hotel? Would it be possible for you to pay for that? If Elle were your mom, Elle wouldn't want to stay at your house. If that's really the only thing keeping her from seeing her grandchildren, she's got issues. Your wife earned every word you said. NTA. NTA. Your wife, and you, because you support your wife, has made it difficult for your mother to see and have a relationship with her grandchildren. Then, she twisted the situation around to make your mother the villain. Finally, your wife joined a conversation between you and your mother to needle your mother about what must be a painful subject for her. Your wife deserved the fairly mild response you gave. This is a very sad situation. Your wife created it. You didn't ask. But your wife is cruel to force you to choose between embarrassing her or hurting your mother. NTA. Your wife can't have it both ways. She put up a block to your mom visiting, so she needs to stop complaining that your mom doesn't visit often. Some people just love to create drama out of thin air. Info. Why, specifically, does your wife not your mom to stay at your house? Can you give specific examples of what happened before that lead to that boundary being drawn? Question. Does your wife's family visit? And when they do they stay over in your house? What if your kid's relationship with your wife's side of the family like? YTA. From reading your additional comments, your mom sounds draining and like she will make extra work for your wife. I wouldn't fancy Mill 24/7 in my space on a visit either. Your wife, uninvited, was intruding on your conversation with your mother, just to jab at her and criticize her. Bad behavior. In general, it's best to side with your spouse over parents. However, in this instance, you also owed something to your mother, who sounds like a reasonable person, and who is being sidelined and isolated by your wife. You love her and were acting to protect her. NTA. Not sure about your wife though. Ash. Both your wife and mom are in the wrong. Neither one of them is trying to meet in the middle or get along. Your wife is allowed to make her home a sanctuary, and not allow your mom to stay. And if your mom's behavior is so bad towards your wife that your wife wants to set hours that your mom can visit, then you might want to look in deeper to that. Set some ground rules for your mom's visit. She stays in a hotel. Make plans to go do things with her, so that way she isn't at your home all day. It could be things just you and your kids do with her, or just the kids, and she can give you and your wife some alone time. Also, your wife doesn't have to egg on things with your mom, and she don't have a right to manipulate her time. Tell her how to spend it, etc. If she doesn't want to be around your mom, that is fine. Like I said, make other plans to show your mom a good time while spending time with her. Your wife needs to keep her snide comments to herself. You were wrong in snapping at your wife like that in front of your mom. You should have told your mom you will have to call her back later, then hung up and had a discussion privately with your wife. Your mom was further wrong for laughing when you did. That just showed what kind of respect your mom has for your wife. What did you say to your mom for laughing? Ash. As someone who has a mill who won't spend the 1.5 hours tops in the car to visit her grandchild, but will drive all over for her other 2 adult kids, brother's kids and their kids, and sister, but then turns around and complains about how my child will never know her. Yeah, STFU. She lives in a very dangerous house for a toddler. Glass and sharp corners everywhere. And it is small and cramped, and honestly, my husband and has terrible memories there. So no, we won't go there. So fine if Mill doesn't want to come if she has to stay in a hotel. But honestly, your wife has a point about not wanting her to stay there. Especially 'cause it sounds like Mill would be awful to her in her own home 24/7. Your wife should just stop talking and pretend she doesn't exist. She needs to get over the fact that your mom doesn't want to make your child a priority over her own attitude. You should never have said that in front of your mom. You did break a cardinal rule with that. And you should be more upset that your mom won't do whatever she could to spend time with you and her grandkids. To basically just say, okay, you have every right not to want to be a physical presence in our lives ever. That's bogus. Ash, but I definitely understand your wife. My home is my sanctuary, and I don't have PPL who drains me in my home. I'm very sensitive to auras, and if I can't control outside environments, at least I can my home. However, why not ask the kids to grandma? Why not try to find a balance to be a better family unit? No one should feel uncomfortable and entitled in their home. This situation is a mess. NTA. If your wife doesn't get along with your mother, why does wife give mom a hard time about not visiting enough? Wife seems like she's manufacturing more drama. Info. How does your mother treat your wife? And vice versa? The description you gave in your first paragraph versus your wife's comment that she doesn't want to be made to feel like a burden in her own home paint very different pictures of their relationship. NTA. You're being abused. No one wants to say it because you're the husband and this also deal with a mill. But your wife is abusive. She has successfully isolated you from your family. You are not allowed to take vacation time or spend the money to visit your family because it is too expensive. Also, you don't know mom's husband, but a visit doesn't mean you're leaving the children alone with the strange man. However, it's okay for your mother to spend the money to visit, but she cannot stay with you and can only visit during pre-approved, scheduled times that your wife allows. Even on a phone call with your mother, your wife interjects herself to insult your mother. She has set incredibly difficult rules for your family to have interactions with the children and you. I would bet that her family has unlimited access whenever they want with no hoops to jump through. Even if your mom were to visit and follow the hotel rule, why can't your wife go out with her friends, to a movie, or whatever else to avoid her? You're a parent. You should be fully capable of taking care of your children while your wife enjoys some personal time away. Honestly, it just sounds like your wife has to have control over the entire situation with your family. I'll take the down votes and nasty comments. I really don't care. It's obvious that you are being isolated because regardless of who goes where, there's either incredibly strict rules or it's not financially viable. There's constantly a reason to keep your family away. It is unfair to keep you and your children from your family. Your wife doesn't have to participate, but she shouldn't be preventing that time for the rest of you. Is this the mill troll again? Info. What is the size of your home? E.g., if your family lives in, say, 2-bedroom apartment, then it is indeed unreasonable to host your mother. If you have larger house, e.g., suburban USA type, ostensibly with in-laws suite, then your wife is likely unreasonable. NTA. Your wife spoke cruel words. She was conniving and spiteful to your mom while you were on the phone. She gets support to protect her sanctuary and then taunts and criticizes your mom. Is this fair to mom, you, and the kids? Your wife presents as entitled and one who gets her way. She demonstrates no authentic character to bend her view or create a mutual agreement for her children to have a closer relationship with their grandparent. You are stuck in the middle, loving two women. Best to you.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.